Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and today I am super happy to bring our 14th in-depth character review series where we are looking at Boba Fett. And that's not all. If you saw my last video with General Kenobi and the clones, I mentioned that for the next month we are going to be having Faction Week specials. So to kick this off, all this week we are going to have about 2 to 3 in-depth reviews, and it's all about bounty hunters, and Boba Fett is going to kick us off here, and I am super excited. They did a rework. We're going to be comparing what he was before, what the rework was afterwards. So let's go ahead, pull up the Hall of Fame, and see where we stand so far. In our last review, we looked at the TIE Fighter pilot and we placed him in the Master category. Where will Boba Fett fall? Is his rework worthy enough to fall on this table in the high ranks? Well, stay tuned and you all will find out. And the gameplay you are seeing today is a combination of my Boba Fett, also a Boba Fett that I borrowed from Grim and Blade, who has a maxed out Boba Fett, and there is also maxed out Boba Fett gameplay from a fellow guild member known as Month-Lord. So thank you all so much for contributing to this video, and let's get right into it, to the history of Boba Fett. Now, before Jango Fett, his father, had his DNA used as the genetic blueprint for the Republic's clone army, he made one request to be given an unaltered clone, which he could call his own son, which we came to know as Boba Fett. As we saw in the original trilogy, Boba Fett developed a reputation as the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunter and was sought after to complete jobs for individuals like Jabba the Hutt and Darth Vader. A little while after capturing the elusive Han Solo, Luke Skywalker made a daring rescue for Han, where we see a rather awkward scene of Boba being defeated. Boba tried to stop Luke, but a blinded Han Solo accidentally slammed a pole in Boba's jetpack, and the jetpack ignited and sent Boba tumbling into the Sarlacc pit. Fortunately, between interviews with George Lucas, appearances with Boba Fett in various video games like Star Wars Battlefront, and some books, it appears that Boba did not die and his legacy may continue going forward. And in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, we see Boba Fett's new rework carry on the persona of never letting anyone get in his way. And just when you think he is out for good, he comes back to the action to finish what he started. So with that brief introduction of Boba Fett's history, let's go ahead and talk about how we unlock this character. And there are many viable free-to-play avenues to unlock Boba Fett. One of the most popular ways, the way that I farmed him originally, was through Cantina shipments. For 400 Cantina currency, you can get 5 shards of Boba Fett, and likewise, you can also get him in the fleet shipments for the same exact return. He's also the current login reward for December, and there's also a promotional data card pack for $40, which contains 80 shards of both Boba Fett himself and his ship, so there are plenty of free-to-play and pay-to-play methods to get this character up to 7 stars. But let's go ahead and talk about the stats of Boba Fett before we consider mods and abilities, and yes, this data also includes the integration of Jyn Erso and K2SO from not too long ago. So probably what you're interested in first are the pros, the stuff that he is great at, and fortunately, after this rework, he is great at a lot of things. The first thing I want to talk about is speed, and he is number 17 in speed. The average speed right now is 127, and Boba Fett is at 147, which puts him in the top 25% of the fastest characters in the game. And in case you're curious, beforehand, his speed was 113, so a great improvement in this area. Next, max damage. How much damage is Boba Fett going to put on his foes? And quite a lot. He is number 8 in terms of maximum damage, with the average being 5,408, and Boba Fett's maximum attack can do 7,821, which puts him in the top 10%, and this is before even considering what that attack even does. And beforehand, his maximum damage was 4,396, and that was it. No special abilities, and that was very poor. Now it's a lot better, and we haven't even talked about why it's so good. Bouncing off maximum damage, let's talk about maximum basic damage, the attack you're going to be using most often in the game. He is number 23 in this category, with the average maximum basic damage being 4,238. We see Boba Fett at 4,828. And before, this was 4,396, so this is definitely a great improvement from before, and this puts him in the top 25% currently. Now, as we all know, he has an AoE attack, an area of effect attack on everyone, whatever you'd like to call it, and he is number 8 out of the 35 characters that have this type of ability. The average AoE damage is 2,992, with Boba Fett being at 3,331 from his ability Death from Above. And this is better than before, which was 2,622. And when we look at this number, as of now, he is in the top 25% in AoE damage dealers. The list keeps going on, my friends, and we have to talk about potency. Boba Fett has a lot of debuffs that he can apply, from damage over time and ability blocks. Will he be able to apply even without the help of mods? And it looks like he should be okay in this category as well, because he is number 35 in potency. The average potency in this game is 30%, and Boba Fett is at 36%. Definitely an improvement from before, where his potency in the past was 26%. So this definitely keeps him way up there in the top 50% as of now. The last thing we have to talk about in terms of pros is that he has health steal. Although very little, it is 5%, and a little bit of health steal is better than none. And this doesn't even include the fact when he revives, he gets 100% health. More on that later. Moving on to the average, what is he okay at? And this category isn't as big as the pros, and we find he is in the middle of the road for armor penetration. Right now, he is number 54 in armor penetration, with the average being 53. Boba Fett is definitely kind of around that at 43. And this is actually one of the areas where he slipped in. Before, he was at 44 armor penetration, and he fell ever so slightly to 43. So we got the pros, we got the averages. Yeah, you know what time it is. Now we gotta move on to the stuff that Chewbacca wants to cry about, and that is the cons. We see that he kind of fell in a couple of categories here now. In terms of health, he is number 72 in health. The average health in this game is 19,181, and Boba Fett is definitely below that at 15,677. And this is another category where he slipped in, which before he had 17,935. Now, health's favorite cousin, protection, we see Boba Fett is also lacking in this area. Boba Fett is number 73 in protection, with the average being 19,625. Boba Fett is at 14,935. So there we go, we got the numbers out of the way, but as you and I know, numbers don't tell the full story here. Some things might be better, some things might be worse when you put it into the correct light, and that's why we have to look at the kit. What is his abilities and leader stuff all about? And we see that his kit revolves around Boba Fett taking command of the battlefield with various debuffs and status stripping abilities, while also ensuring no one stands in his way. When it looks like he is down for the count, he comes back for more action. And we see that with his first ability, with his EE3 Carbine Blaster. We finally get to see Boba Fett use that blaster that for some reason was never used in the past. And what this attack does is that it's a basic attack that deals damage to a target enemy with a 50% chance to attack again, and this is doubled against Scoundrel, so aka 100% chance. And each attack has a 70% chance to inflict damage over time for 2 turns. Next, let's look at Death from Above, his AoE ability, and this has a lot more use than before. It deals physical damage to all enemies with an 80% chance to inflict ability block for 1 turn, and we're not done yet. It also has a 50% chance to inflict damage over time for 2 turns, and he also is guaranteed an ability block on the selected target for 2 turns. So let's say you're looking at Stormtrooper Han, you're pointing at him, you said, boy, you're in trouble. You're gonna go ahead and apply ability block to Stormtrooper Han just because he was looking at Boba Fett dead in the eye. Now, going on to probably one of my favorite abilities in the game now, Execute. It deals physical damage to a target enemy and dispels all status effects on them, both positive and negative. And this deals 30% more damage for each effect dispelled, and defeated enemies by this ability cannot be revived. This also reduces all cooldowns by 1 on a finishing blow, and on top of that, this attack cannot be evaded. So come on, can someone throw up hashtag Culling Blade 2.0, because that is what I'm seeing right now. This is an excellent counter to characters like Imwe and Kenobi, who spread buffs like wildfire, and also it's a great attack under someone like Vader's Zeta leader ability. So a lot of stuff going on here, and it's very like Darth Vader's Culling Blade, but it's taking it to a whole nother level where besides negative debuffs, it also works against positive buffs. So taunts, health up, all that great stuff, he will strip away as well. Absolutely amazing. And we are still not done yet. It feels like I'm reading an essay for Boba Fett's leader abilities because he has so much going on nowadays. Getting to his leader ability, it's actually quite nice. It's called Dead or Alive. And what this does, it's first off a catch-all leader ability where it applies to everyone, where he grants them 50% critical damage and 10% critical chance. And also, this benefits bounty hunters in particular as well, where we see that bounty hunters also gain 15 speed for each debuffed enemy, and they gain max health equal to 50% of the total potency of all bounty hunter allies. Deep breath. And gains 15% turn meter whenever a thermal detonator explodes. Lastly, let's get out of this whole kit thing finally. We got so much going on, but we have to talk about Bounty Hunter's Resolve, and it's crazy. At the start of the battle, and whenever he defeats an enemy, Boba Fett recovers 100% protection and gains Bounty Hunter's Resolve until he is defeated. This exclusive buff that he only has as of now ignores taunts, and upon defeat, he will come back and revive himself at 100%. This has lots of possibilities to act as if he was never defeated or touched. So there you have it. Lots of stuff going on in this kit. You're probably getting all excited, but hold your horses, buddy. We gotta talk about the raid gear, and there are some tiers that have to be shed in this category. And starting off, let's go ahead and talk about the raid gear. How much raid gear are you going to need to get Boba Fett all the way to gear 11? Well, the average is 3. And Boba Fett, he needs 7 pieces. 7 pieces, that's the highest requirement alongside Sidious and Gunray. And this did not change despite the rework. It was 7 before and 7 now. So in case you want to know what you need, well, first off, he will start needing raid gear at gear 8, so pretty early. And get out your pens and pencils, ladies and gentlemen, because we have a lot of stuff here. Boba Fett, for his breakfast, he needs 3 Mark V fusion furnaces. He will also need 1 Mark V droid collar, 2 Mark VI Nubian design tech, and finally, to top the frosting on the cake, we need a Mark VII Nubian security scanner. So a lot of stuff here, and it's not easy to come across raid gear for most people in this game. So do keep this in mind if you want to get Boba Fett. Getting on to gold gear, the stuff that's new since the whole 85 level cap, the average is 200, and Boba Fett, fortunately, is below this at 110, which also remained unchanged from the rework. And good news is he does not need gold gear until he is gear 11, so no worries about that if you need to get to that level. Purple gear, the stuff that takes forever to farm, I feel like. The average is 1,341, and Boba Fett is definitely above this. He needs 1,410 pieces, but fortunately this did drop drastically from beforehand, where it was almost 1,865 purple pieces. So 400 pieces got knocked off from the rework, which is great. The most popular piece that I can find, he needs a lot of purple gear obviously, but the most popular one are the Mark VI hypo syringes. He needs 250 of them. Lastly, blue, green, and white gear, nothing much to talk about. However, it did increase a little bit since the rework, and he is now slightly above the average for all these categories. So there you have it. We got all the numerical stuff out of the way, all of the facts. Let's go ahead and get to the more subjective part of the review, where I give you my tips, recommendations, thoughts on this character, and Yoda's checklist, which we started not too long ago. And here are my thoughts. The Boba Fett rework, it's just fantastic. There's no other way to put it, and it's exactly what he needed. He was an awkward so-called tank from before that was so embarrassing to watch and was more depressing than watching spilled milk while eating fresh cookies from Grandma Tarkin. And now he is a true threat on the field that is quick and deadly. His executability is by far one of my favorite abilities in the game and takes what Vader had to a whole new level. With Vader's new leader ability, the never-ending damage over time is a huge party for both Vader and Boba Fett, and I smell a great friendship blooming between those two. Although he requires a lot of raid gear, it is definitely a great investment in the long run. Seeing how it appears, Boba Fett is a great character and one that is designed to make bounty hunters better. Maybe they will rework or add more deadly bounty hunters in the future. It's unknown at this point, but it is also great to see an amazing free-to-play character that is not blocked behind a paywall and is easily accessible for everyone to get to. Who does he work best with? There's actually a lot of characters that he works best with, actually. He works great with characters who promote debuffs like Vader. As I said, Vader and Boba, they're going to be besties. They'll be sending good night messages to each other every single day. That's how close they will be when you combine Vader's leader, or even when Vader's not a leader. 2 culling blades essentially are quite deadly. Also works well with characters that toss in thermal detonators like Greedo and Zam. He was a ton of fun to use with Zam Wessel. Zam Wessel becomes a much more viable character under a Boba Fett lead because she can constantly detonate thermal detonators and get tons and tons of Terminator for both herself and the team around her. So although this has not been thoroughly tested in Arena, this might be a viable option that we have yet to be discovered as a new meta for Arena, so do keep that in mind. With this Boba Fett rework, we do see that the developers are trying to make bounty hunters great again, since some of the bounty hunters, they do need some more work like Cad Bane, but this is a great start heading in the right direction. We just need more of the bounty hunters to get up on Boba Fett's level, or there might be some new characters that will come around in the future, but as of now, it does not seem that a full bounty hunter squad would be completely viable in Arena. Lastly, before we get to the checklist, we just want to talk about mods real quick, and if Boba Fett is not leading, critical chance, critical damage mods are definitely the best, with speed, protection, health, critical damage, all that great stuff as a primary or secondary mods, because you just want to amplify his damage output. But if he is leading bounty hunters only, then you might want to consider boosting his potency as well as the other bounty hunters' potency to increase the maximum health bonuses that characters can get, because it's a 2-for-1 deal. You're upping your potency buff, and then at the same time as you're increasing your potency, you're also in a way adding health mods to your character, because the more potency you have, the higher health you will have in the end. So keep that in mind. Now, finally, the Yoda checklist, the do or do not checklist. We're going to go through all the events in the game and whether or not you should be using him for those events. So for Arena, he is definitely a do for this category. He is a great character for Arena, as we talked about. Galactic War, an extension of Arena, just the longest battle in history. That is also a do. Dark Side battles, 100% do that. Cantina battles, yep, go ahead and do that. Just like Dark Side battles, he is absolutely great. Mod challenges, he is used for the Bounty Hunter mod challenges to get those critical chance mods. So definitely one of the best Bounty Hunters in the game and great for that. So definitely do that. Ships, he has the Slave 1, one of the best ships in the whole and Fleet Arena, all that great stuff. So yes, he is definitely a do in this category. Now for the raids, definitely up in the air. A lot of stuff are being discovered every single day for the AAT raid. For the Rancor raid, unless you are using Darth Vader's Zeta leader ability, then I'm going to say do not. Boba Fett does not offer that much for the Rancor raid, but if there are never-ending debuffs on the Rancor or the guards, then this is very, very viable. But without Vader's Zeta leader ability, he's not going to be doing too much for the Rancor, so do not. AAT raid, I'm going to put a question mark here. As I said, the AAT raid, we are still learning strategies every single day. What I thought TIE Fighter Pilot was not good for the AAT raid a month ago when I was at EA, a couple weeks later, we find out he's actually very useful for Phase 3 of the AAT raid. So let's go ahead and put a question mark on that. Let's go ahead and look into it. I'm thinking he won't be that viable in the AAT raid, but maybe with the Vader Zeta leader ability, he might be really great, or in some other circumstances. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that off to the side. So let's go ahead and wrap this up and pull up the Hall of Fame. Where are we going to place Boba Fett? Because this rework is something else, let me tell you. So when looking from Grandmaster to Youngling, we are going to put Boba Fett in the Grandmaster category. Super excited to see Boba Fett up here. Before the rework, I was actually going to create a whole new level below Youngling because he was absolutely terrible before, and now he is great. Used for so many things, very deadly, very great rework. So another rework that we can put in the very well category, like Royal Guard and whatnot, or Wigs, because they are absolutely great. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as you guys know, this is Bounty Hunters Week, so unless there's some exclusive character that I get to review, we are just going to be looking at Bounty Hunters. So in the comments down below, let me know what Bounty Hunter needs the spotlight. Is it IG-88? Is it Dengar? You let me know. Also, let me know what faction week you would like to see, or just in general, what character needs to be reviewed. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment down below on the video or anything else, and subscribe, and we will talk again soon. Peace out.